I'm with Acumera. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer. Acumera is an edge platform, an edge computing company.
With Taco Bell, Senior Manager IT Architecture.
So Taco Bell's been on a digital journey. You can see some of what they've been doing kind of on display in this little video. But there's been a ton of innovation, not just in drive-through, but through the whole restaurant.
What we're seeing here is that the restaurant is on the second floor, the kitchen is on the second floor. There are multiple drive-through lanes, and this technology allows us to do this kind of things. So a couple of years back, thinking about it, the Taco Bell was facing decision that we need to embark on this digital transformation journey. COVID pushed the importance of digital sales up. The customer experience was becoming ever more important. There's a lot of information. The complexity within the restaurants was increasing. The orders would come on multiple channels, point of sale, front counter, kiosk, mobile applications. These orders need to be taken, marshaled throughout different endpoints within the restaurant. The technology stack was straining to keep up with that demand. And we had to decide how we're gonna meet the need. And the decision was we need to put edge devices in each and every location.
Yes. So Taco Bell completely transformed their restaurant technology stack. It's a deployment which is just about complete. If you went back in time 3 years ago, none of this existed. Now it's ubiquitous across the entire chain. And it really embodies a philosophy of having, a fully connected restaurant. The fully connected restaurant includes everything from kitchen management, order management, signage, point of sale, integration into e-com, so TacoBell.com, the Taco Bell app. And what brings all of this together, and really the subject of this presentation, is the idea of the smart hub. So Taco Bell's built this infrastructure around the idea that every restaurant is going to have a smart hub in it. And the smart hub is going to be able to provide sort of the connectivity between what's really a integrated but a lot of individual discrete systems. And again, it's a transformational change from what existed previously. And it's one that positions Taco Bell for a lot more innovation to come, which is what makes this really exciting. A number of key requirements Taco Bell had, which they identified, first of which is they decided to move away from sort of a traditional monolithic client-server-based compute stack to microservices. And microservices in the Taco Bell world were going to be delivered as Docker containers. This is a very important innovation. We think Docker and microservices are going to be entirely ubiquitous across virtually all aspects of retail and hospitality. But it's the idea that you're suddenly moving away from having these large sort of, again, monolithic, pieces of software to much more agile microservices. It's what really drives everything that happens at web scale. It's the innovations that were originally created by the Googles, the Amazons, the Facebooks, the Apples, the Netflix, et cetera. And that restaurant stack, which, in the previous slide, is all microservices based and all Docker based. The second requirement Taco Bell had was they are an AWS shop, so all of the infrastructure supporting the e-com environment was coming out of AWS. And AWS cloud connectivity and the ability to drive applications out of AWS was a key requirement for the go-forward architecture. Another requirement was the fact that they couldn't tolerate a single point of failure within the infrastructure. So the idea that this smart hub, was going to be a central hub, but it had to be entirely fault tolerant. So it had to be hardware redundancy and software redundancy throughout.
But it also has to.
But it also, yep.
Has to be able to operate with degrading or no connection to the cloud. It has to operate in a harsh environment, but it cannot be expensive. It has to be affordable.
Yep, and it has to be an open architecture and integratable, since there again, there's Taco Bell software operating these environments. There's third-party vendor software operating, and there's going to be other things that are going to go in. So the idea of a microservices architecture is that everything can be connected to each other, and applications can easily feed each other through APIs. And again, the connected kitchen, one of its foundational pieces is the idea that these are going to be IoT devices. They also wanted to find a partner that had demonstrable ability to deliver at scale. Scale in Taco Bell's world means 7,500 locations and growing. This wasn't a time for Taco Bell to sort of experiment on a vendor that couldn't demonstrate the ability to operate in thousands, if not tens of thousands of locations. And then lastly, it had to be affordable, right? You can't sit down and tell your franchisees that they're going to be looking at paying thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a month in a new technology, component that's not necessarily part of a bigger picture. So it has to be priced right. So how did Acumera meet these requirements? Well, first, the Edge Platform stack, which drives the Smart Hub, we are entirely cloud agnostic. AWS, we're native to AWS, but we support Azure and GCP, and we're not tied to any one cloud provider. It's an important differentiation because different edge solutions, especially those coming out of the cloud providers, tend to be very proprietary to the clouds. And Taco Bell wanted something that was both agnostic but also clearly could work within AWS. They also obviously had a requirement for supporting containers. Our solution supports both virtual machines and containers, or both simultaneously. It's all front-end API driven, so we're an API-first architecture, which meant that requirement for being able to support a connected environment where applications are going to be built into the environment is available, since we have an open and published API for this. We support scale operations. We supported scale operations at thousands of locations before Taco Bell became our customer, and we're able to demonstrate that. We have low-level support for data gathering and data collection, which is a key requirement, again, to work within a connected kitchen environment. Part of the idea is that Taco Bell did not want to have to build, individual data collection points or monitoring infrastructure, and that comes as part of our solution. We're also, we support single node, dual node, multi-nodes, so there's hardware fault tolerance as well, and it's priced for the market.
And the main thing, you are really responsive partner, and you provide a great support structure.
Thank you. Yeah. So what is the Edge platform we're talking about? What does it really consist of? There are 5 sort of foundational, sort of core feature sets around it. Application delivery is the obvious one. Our ability to support within the Taco Bell context. Fleets of Docker containers is easy. I mentioned virtual machines as well. But stepping past that, you have requirements around configuration management. And when you get into scale operation, as Taco Bell requires, the ability to support configurations again, in the thousands, if not tens of thousands of locations, being able to drive configuration management, not just to the Edge platform, but to the underlying application stack is critical. And there's a significant investment in software infrastructure to do that. Orchestration is another core component as well. So, configuration management we think is something that is almost pull-based, where the restaurant or the store is recognizes its configuration and pulls it down from the central cloud. Orchestration or push-based actions, the ability to do a snapshot or push a new feature or function or patch to an IoT device, are all orchestration-based commands. And then monitoring and data collection are two of the other points that probably bring up. So the ability to monitor this infrastructure, not just, again, the Edge platform, but the applications and the connected infrastructure is key to a good Edge solution. And then data collection, the ability to collect data off of the applications, the Edge platform itself, the applications the Edge platform is hosting, the associated IoT devices, network infrastructure, whatever have you. It's part of the core competency. The platform itself consists of 3 components. There's the Edge platform, so it's actually running within the restaurant. And then you have a management plane. The management plane is dedicated to the support, of all of the connected Edge devices. And that's what is really cloud agnostic. That could be in AWS, or it could be in Azure, or it could be in GCP, We have customers running in all three of those. And then lastly, there's the platform manager piece itself, and this is really a multi-tenant environment that operates out of our cloud, where you have API endpoints, as well as a GUI, as well to look and see what's happening and control configuration. So in the journey that Taco Bell was on, a couple of the advantages that we had was this came down to a build versus buy decision. And generally speaking, if you can buy something, it's often less expensive and certainly less risky than building it. Taco Bell's preference was to buy, but if they couldn't find a solution, I think they would have built as well.
We needed it fast.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we needed best practices, ready-made, already proven solutions with great support structure.
It's a full solution, so one of the things that Taco Bell found was that they weren't just having to put in the edge solution itself, but the entire tool chain for managing it, the data collection and the monitoring pieces I mentioned. It's we cover all of these things, that full feature set, which made the decision to work with our solution easy. It's an open architecture, as I also mentioned before. It's an open API. It connects into whatever cloud or whatever IoT endpoint. One of the things that we're known for is we're very agnostic. We're hardware agnostic. We're application agnostic. We're not coming from a specific application provider where our edge solution works best with their applications, but not necessarily a competitor's. All we do is edge, whether it's secure WAN edge or whether it's edge platform, and again with no tie-ins to any specific industry vendor, and the like. And then, as Pavel mentioned, managed services and expertise, where our domain knowledge is extremely strong in the space, and we have the ability to not only provide the software stack, but help our customers get it up and operating, and even provide managed services on operating it as necessary. So last thing before we wrap up is, so how are we evolving into the QSR and restaurant space? So one area is in IoT and the idea that there's going to be more and more connected devices. So one of our most active areas of development these days is the ability to support out-of-the-box different IoT devices, and those could be, vision intelligence solutions like we were just talking about earlier, or they could be connected devices, connected kitchen infrastructure, whether it's smart grills, smart ovens,
order
management.
accuracy monitors, the
exactly.
automated drinking machines, robotic fryers.
Yep. Yeah, so the more of these integrations that we can bring to the table that are already done, the easier it is to onboard the solution to get it operating. The next is there's been a lot of work on our end supporting GPUs and ML at the edge level. Right now, this is really an emerging space, so different providers have different preferences for different GPUs, whether it's NVIDIA, AMD, Intel Flex. And our position, again, here is to be agnostic and provide out-of-the-box support for whatever GPU or whatever ML library a provider is bringing to the table. And this is a point just worth adding one more comment on, because one of the problems that hospitality, restaurant systems, and retail have had is that business will come to you with a specific software solution that they want to onboard. Every time that requires another box, it creates another support point, creates another point of failure, creates another set of challenges for the organization, and increases the total cost of ownership. So you have this sprawl happening. We think one of the best practices in Edge is to be able to have an Edge infrastructure like you would in a cloud infrastructure that can adapt and support multiple software systems doing different things and different functions. And this is one of the things that Taco Bell is accomplishing with a smart hub. It's an architecture to support whatever the business throws at them, and along the way not having to deploy new physical hardware, and it's dynamic and scalable. The ability to, again, provide a highly connected, highly distributed environment, moving beyond, 2 nodes to 3 nodes to 4 nodes to 5 nodes, and scale horizontally is a big part, of what we're doing and how things are going to evolve. So, for the overwhelming majority of this market, we think today having 2 nodes should provide ample compute and ample edge capabilities to meet whatever challenges comes. But again, along the way, it's nice to have an architecture that scales horizontally. And then the last thing, which is very important, at least from the Acumera standpoint, is the idea that there's going to be continued growth in both the security as well as the network connectivity space. And edge platform and secure edge in our world converges. We're uniquely positioned as we have solutions around both, and they complement each other. So the idea, again, for most operators today, the sort of the secure edge, the firewall, the router, it's often a separate system, separate physical hardware, run by a separate group than what you might have in restaurant systems. We think, again, those things are going to start converging, and there's going to be great, potential benefits in terms of total cost of ownership, like to be able to get to a world where it's fully software defined. We've got what we'll call, a generic, potentially fungible hardware that can do all of the above. And that's it for us. So